first poem that I'm going to review from Lily Lawson's Orange collection of poems is the opening poem, Poetry is Alive. This poem sets Lawson's intentions and worked effectively to invite you in to read the rest of the poems when you just have a smidge of time, not enough time for a book. It champions the need for poetry in our lives still, and this is something that I am glad of, as my favourite written words ever are in a poem by Yeats, Had I the Heavens Embroidered Cloths. This poem is a great introduction to the rest of the book. The next poem I'm going to talk about is called I Crave My Fix. This poem made me think about when I was younger, when I'd buy a new cassette or CD. Yes, I'm showing my age. And if there was a word booklet inside, I'd always read the lyrics first to see if I had an association with the lyrics to the song before I heard the actual music, perhaps with the lyrics being more important to me than the tune itself. Lawson is right, words can touch our emotions. They can take us in our imaginations to places we've never been to, they can hurt, they can heal. In my review of A.A. Chowdhury's The Final Party, I mentioned how her vivid descriptions of Italy made me feel like I was there whilst I was reading. This poem reminded me of that in that review. Lawson, I agree with you. I need more. Your words are helping me remember why I love poetry so much. For the poem Poetic Choreography, the first thing that struck me when reading this was the layout and punctuation. Yep, straight into teacher mode. This poem works so well to step away from the conventional few lines per stanza and set patterns often found in poetry. Here, the varied use of punctuation, commas in particular, help to set the choreography in the poem, and it works really effectively. At times it is legato, smooth, and at others jumpy and short, staccato. And then there comes a needed pause for a longer intake of breath, and a rest with a full stop. Brilliant. I hope these words throughout Orange get the attention that they deserve. As a proud and, may I say, typical fire sign, I enjoyed reading how the different elements of the world can be found within somebody, and how we could perhaps have all of the elements within us. Lawson's attention to detail for the senses here brings the poem alive, and I felt a journey within as I read it. I imagine that she too had this when writing. It says so much in so little, and is one of my standout favourites in the collection. The next poem I'm going to talk about is the poem called Love Seeks. This poem instantly reminded me of a piece of creative non-fiction that I wrote myself a while back. The poem is an interesting take on love itself, and the second verse really goes in a different direction to what I'd expected. It certainly made me wonder the intention and the meaning behind this one, and I love when a poem intrigues me. The next poem, Three Words Are Enough, sums up so much so well. Three small words can often start wars, end wars, and do so much damage or so much good. This poem is really moving. It's sheer brilliance again, and it gave me goosebumps. And finally, the poem The Book of Us. I'm going to read this one actually. An eraser is insufficient to remove the hurtful words from my correspondence to you, written in inedible ink. No editor could take the pain away. I am no ghost, those words were mine alone. There's no rewrite, no second draft. They remain published in original format. No matter the word count, the highlights will be referred to when you review our friendship. No matter the twists and the turns of the plot, wherever the story ends, my final chapter will contain the words, I love you, even if you never return to my book. I thought this was so moving. I think in this Lawson's captured something that probably so many people can associate with. It was one of a couple of poems that made me feel quite emotional in this collection, one of which I'm not actually going to share my review publicly. I've shared it with Lawson instead. and I think this really showcases how in tune she can be, not only with probably her own emotions, but that of others. And whilst words, like I've said earlier in my review, can take us to places, they can also really hurt. Lawson, you're a fantastic poet. I have really enjoyed reading your collection. Whilst I'm not going to review the final poem in the collection from Orange, she's actually snuck one in from her collection Red as well at the very end. The final poem of Orange, Take Time to Listen, wraps things up so successfully. I urge you to read that poem plus the rest of the book and her other books yourself. Thank you so much for listening to my review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, a like and a subscribe means a lot. If you haven't yet listened to my other reviews, please go ahead and do so, and I'll be back soon with another one.